Hey everybody, welcome back to the Upper Room Bible Study. I'm going to start doing a segment called Pastor for the Day. I used to be a pastor for the day on a radio station here in the U.S., in New York State. I wasn't a pastor and I'm not a pastor, but they needed a spot filled in and they asked me to do it. And so I did that for a couple, 2-3 years. So what I want to do first to start this off is just to give you a background story on how I even got to be on the radio, and then I'm going to read the very part of the Bible and my commentary that I did on the radio that's concerning how I got there. So to start it off, God put on me to put together the 4 Gospels concerning the Garden of Gethsemane. The same stories are in the same 4 Gospels. Some aren't, and some are. And as I read the Garden of Gethsemane, I wondered what the other Gospels had to say about it. And as I read those, sure enough, there was a little extra in each one. And so I put the 4 of them together. I photocopied it for some people at work that were interested, and I would hand them out to them. Well, then one day he laid on me to put all 4 Gospels together. I didn't know if anybody had already done it. I just know what he urged my heart to do. So I did it. I just started typing and reading and studying, and I found a chronological order of how they should be in order. And so I literally typed out the 4 Gospels included with each other. So I would read one, and figure out how they fit and add the little parts to the story that needed it. Then I found a publisher, and long story short, got a little book together called All For You. So now my wife and I are like, oh man, this is amazing. This is obviously from God, because I'm not a reader other than the Bible. And so I sat down, and every morning before work, I'd get up early, and at night I'd get home, I'd be typing. So now that it was a little book, we decided we're going to distribute these out to different places and see if they would use it alongside the Bible as a little study thing for people that are just coming in to know the Lord. So she sent out so many copies with letters, Catholic charities for people coming into the U.S., for the military, all the different branches, for the chaplains, it just went everywhere. No replies. We got 0 replies. So then one day we're floating in the pool and we're talking about it, and I said, you know what? I feel that God is telling me that anything we have to do with the book is not going to be for profit. Because at first we were like, man, this is maybe an answer to prayer for this and that and this and that. But we really were okay. We're not suffering. So as soon as I decided that, we decided that, I started handing them out. I have a box of books that are just sitting here. So I would hand them out to men who were homeless, and maybe not homeless, but that were on the street with a cart. They had some cans. I started a can ministry, and I would save our bottles and cans in a bag, and sometimes it'd be 2. God would lay on my heart which one is going to get them. And when I would give him the bottles and cans, I would also give him a book, shake his hand, make him feel like a person, tell him I'd pray for him. So I started handing these books out. All of a sudden, there's more and more. I had people come to me at work and thank me for maybe a Bible that I'd given them in the past, and I said, well, I've got some book. I got a book. I have a book now. You want a book? Oh, I'll take 5 or 6 books because I'm in a halfway house right now, and I could set them on the table. And then another one would come in. I'm in a halfway house, and I'm handing these books out in piles, and I thought, this is probably what he had in mind. So, trying to cut this short so I can read the thing I'm trying to do here. So one day I got a call from one of the women that I went to school with way back when we were little kids. So she calls me and says, hey, one of our guys on the radio passed away, and as we were going through his box that he had under his desk, there was this book, and I turned it over and looked, and there's Harry. And she said, oh my goodness, I know this guy. So she asked if I wanted to come in and highlight the book. I said, sure. So my wife and I went up to the radio station to highlight it. They did a little segment for it. And then she asked if I wouldn't mind filling in for pastor for the day. She asked her boss. The boss said that's fine as long as he doesn't identify. I asked my pastor how I would go about that, and he said that'd be fine as long as I didn't identify as a pastor. So I did that. And this story right here really sums up in the Bible how that happened for me. You know, finding my book at the bottom of a box probably a few years later, and then all of a sudden I'm on the radio speaking to I don't know how many people, thousands I would assume, can get this radio station. So this is Bring It to Jesus, and I'm going to read these now. I'm not going to do every video the same way, but from now on when I do this video, I'm going to call it Pastor for the Day, and I'm going to do it just like I did it on the radio, just because I miss it, and it's time consuming. It lets me know that I'm doing something to maybe bring people to Jesus, okay? So I called this one, Bring It to Jesus. John 6:5-13. Then Jesus, lifting up his eyes, and seeing that a great crowd is coming to him, he said to Philip, "From where would we buy loaves that we may eat?" But he said this to test him, for he knew what he was about to do. Philip answered him, "Loaves for 200 denarii are not enough for them, that each of them may receive a little." One of his disciples said to him, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, "A little boy is here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they for so many?" And Jesus said, "Make the men recline." And much grass was in that place. Then the men reclined. The number was about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and giving thanks, distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to those reclining. And in the same way the fish, as much as they desired. And when they were filled, he said to the disciples, "Gather up the fragments left over, that not anything be lost." Then they gathered and filled 12 hand baskets with fragments of the barley loaves, which were left over to those who had eaten. To me, when I read this for the umpteenth time, I caught a different story in the feeding of the 5,000. Jesus tests them, already knowing what he is going to do. Philip does the obvious math. He sees with his eyes the physical impossibility of feeding so many people. But Andrew finds a boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish and brings it to Jesus. Now that, to me, is more amazing than Jesus feeding 5,000 people. Jesus, after all, is the creator of everything. For him to feed 5,000 people is nothing. But Andrew beat the odds. He brought practically nothing to Jesus. Even though Philip had already stated the obvious, I can only assume that the other disciples shook their heads in agreement when Philip did the math. So Andrew went against great odds. I'll bet the others started to snicker to themselves when Andrew said, "Here are 5 loaves and 2 fish." But I bet they stopped when Jesus said to tell them to make the people sit down. Bring it to Jesus. No matter how silly it seems, no matter how small, no matter how impossible it seems, if you bring it to Jesus, he can use it. The mustard seed is a very small seed, but Jesus uses it as an example of faith. Even if we had faith the size of a mustard seed, we can do great things. My name is Harry Delamarter from the Upper Room Bible Study, your pastor for the day.